The alarming truth modern women don't want men to know is something most men only discover after years of confusion, disappointment, and emotional exhaustion. And once you finally see it clearly, it changes the way you understand relationships forever. What I'm about to share isn't meant to attack anyone. It's meant to open your eyes, calm your heart, and help you navigate modern dating with wisdom and confidence. Because the truth is simple. The world has changed, and the rules of relationships have changed with it. But men were never given the memo. And today, we're pulling back the curtain so you finally understand what's really happening. Let's begin with the largest shift. 1. Men over 50, 60, and 70 feel deeply even if they can't quite explain it. In the past, relationships were built on mutual exchange. A man provided stability, protection, and direction. A woman provided loyalty, partnership, and emotional connection. Both sides needed each other. Both sides contributed something essential. But today's culture has created a new dynamic, one where many modern women believe they no longer need men, not emotionally, not financially, and in some cases, not even romantically. Yet at the same time, they still expect men to provide the same commitment, consistency, and reliability that men have always offered. This imbalance is at the heart of modern dating confusion. And the alarming truth is this: many modern women want the benefits of traditional men without giving the loyalty and appreciation that once balanced the relationship. That doesn't describe all women, far from it, but it describes a growing pattern that psychologists, marriage counselors, and relationship coaches have been sounding the alarm about for decades. The rise of independence and empowerment is not the problem. The problem is when empowerment turns into entitlement, when independence turns into emotional unavailability, and when confidence turns into delusion. One of the most important truths men must understand today is that modern women are conditioned by media, by social platforms, by influencers, to believe that they can always do better, no matter how good the man in front of them is. A hard-working man, a loyal man, a caring man, qualities that used to be valued, are now treated as basic background expectations rather than something precious. Instead, many women focus on excitement, status, superficial traits, or idealized fantasies shaped by television, social media, and celebrity culture. Psychologists call this the abundance illusion, where a person believes they have countless options even when they really don't. This illusion keeps women constantly searching, comparing, and second-guessing, even when they already have a good man. And here's where the emotional damage begins. Most men still love with consistency. They still value loyalty. They still commit with sincerity. They still approach relationships with the intention to protect and provide. But modern women, influenced by the constant feedback loop of validation, likes, comments, compliments, messages, often develop an inflated sense of desirability. Not based on character, kindness, or emotional maturity, but on digital attention. This creates unrealistic standards that no real man can live up to, not because men are failing, but because the expectations have become disconnected from reality. Here's the alarming truth. Many men never hear. A woman's options increase dramatically online, while her actual compatibility options remain exactly the same. A woman getting attention from hundreds of men on social media doesn't mean she is compatible with hundreds of men, but the ego boost can create the illusion that she should always hold out for something better. And when women believe they can always upgrade, they treat good men as temporary, replaceable, or not enough. Most men feel this shift deeply. You give your best, you communicate honestly, you stay committed, you remain loyal, and still it feels like you're competing with invisible options you can't see and can't control. Men look around and say, "What happened? Why doesn't loyalty matter anymore? Why does effort feel one-sided?" That confusion is painful, especially for older men who grew up in a time when relationships were built on commitment, not convenience. But here's where the deeper truth comes in. Beneath the surface, many modern women are far more insecure than they appear. All the confidence you see, all the attitude you hear, all the independence they present, it often masks fear. Fear of vulnerability, fear of choosing wrong, fear of missing out, fear of settling, and most of all, fear of giving themselves fully to a man who may not give them the emotional fairy tale they've been promised by society. In psychology, there is a concept called avoidant attachment, and modern culture is full of it. It describes people who want connection but fear intimacy. They crave love but avoid closeness. They want a relationship but pull away when it becomes real. Many modern women fall into this category, not because they are bad people, but because society has taught them that needing a man is a weakness instead of a natural human desire. So they disconnect, detach, they stay guarded. And many men, especially older men, feel like they're trying to love someone who is emotionally unavailable. One of the most painful truths is this. Many modern women are taught to prioritize feelings over commitment. If they feel bored, they leave. If they feel challenged, they pull away. If they feel insecure, they blame the man. If they feel unhappy for even a moment, they believe the relationship is failing. They were never taught resilience. They were never taught emotional responsibility. And they were certainly not taught that relationships require sacrifice, patience, and long-term thinking. In past generations, relationships lasted because both sides were willing to work through the hard times. Today, many women are told that the moment things get difficult, the solution is to walk away and find someone better. This creates a world where men are constantly tested, constantly evaluated, constantly judged according to ever-shifting emotional standards, and men understandably grow tired, confused, and disheartened. But here's the most alarming truth of all, something modern women don't want men to realize. A good man is rare, valuable, and irreplaceable. A man who is loyal, steady, emotionally supportive, financially responsible, patient, experienced, and deeply loving is becoming harder and harder to find. While modern women chase illusionary perfection, they often overlook the men who could give them the very life they claim to want: stability, protection, companionship, and genuine love. Men over 50 or 60 especially carry something priceless: wisdom, life experience, emotional maturity, perspective, strength built through decades, not mere moments. These qualities cannot be faked, bought, or replaced. Yet many women realize this truth far too late, after they've wasted years chasing excitement or validation instead of choosing partnership. This is why so many men find themselves pursued later in life by women who once ignored them. Women eventually learn that a stable man is far more attractive than a flashy one, that a good heart is more valuable than a handsome face, that emotional security is more precious than social media attention, and that companionship is worth more than temporary excitement. But men must hear this. You have more power than you think. You are not the one lacking. You are not the one failing. The confusion you feel is not your fault. The dating landscape has changed in ways that make healthy relationships harder to build but easier to lose. And understanding these changes is the first step toward navigating them with strength instead of frustration. But here's where the story gets even more interesting. Many men assume women intentionally create confusion or drama in relationships, but in truth, most of the misunderstandings that happen today come from one simple but powerful shift. Modern life has layered an incredible amount of pressure on both men and women, and these pressures shape the way people behave far more than most of us realize. Women are navigating expectations from social media, from friends, from culture, and from their own inner fears. Men are facing their own challenges, feeling overlooked, feeling unappreciated, feeling as though the qualities they once offered aren't valued the way they used to be. And when these two worlds collide without understanding, it creates a perfect storm of frustration and distance. In many psychology books, especially works discussing modern attachment dynamics, a consistent theme appears. People rarely behave from their true selves. They behave from their fears. A woman who seems distant may not be disinterested. She may fear settling for the wrong person. A woman who pushes for perfection may not be entitled. She may fear being judged by her friends or falling into a relationship that disappoints her. And a woman who delays commitment may not be irresponsible. She may fear losing her identity. When you look at it from this angle, you begin to see that the alarming truth isn't that modern women are bad or selfish. The truth is that modern pressures have created new fears they don't know how to express. One of the oldest relationship researchers, Dr. John Gottman, found something fascinating after decades of studying couples. Most conflict isn't caused by incompatibility, it's caused by unspoken fears. Men fear inadequacy. Women fear abandonment. And these fears produce behaviors that look like the complete opposite of what they truly want. A man wanting closeness may come across as needy. A woman wanting safety may come across as demanding. And both sides misinterpret the other's behavior because no one says what they really feel. I once worked with an older gentleman who had been divorced for years and had just started understanding modern dating. He met a woman who he thought was perfect for him, kind, warm, and caring. But to his surprise, she pulled back every time things started going well. He assumed she wasn't interested, but when we talked through their conversations, a different picture emerged. She wasn't running away from him. She was running away from her belief that she didn't deserve a healthy relationship. She wasn't avoiding commitment because she didn't want him. She was avoiding it because she feared losing control of her life again. This is one of the hidden truths most men never see. Not every withdrawal is rejection. Sometimes it's fear wearing the mask of distance. Another important truth is that many modern women are influenced by social narratives that push them to chase perfection. Perfect careers, perfect looks, perfect relationships. But perfection is an illusion. And when someone constantly feels like they're not measuring up, they often project that pressure onto the relationship. She might compare her partner to unrealistic standards. She might expect emotional perfection. She might fear choosing someone who her social circle won't approve of. All of this creates tension she doesn't intentionally create. It's simply the environment she lives in. Understanding this helps men avoid taking things personally and instead navigate the relationship with calm clarity. One of the most powerful lessons from expert relationship speakers is this: when a woman feels overwhelmed by life, the relationship becomes another area she feels she must manage correctly. But when a man provides emotional calmness, consistency, and grounded energy, he becomes the one place where she doesn't have to perform. And this shifts everything. A man doesn't need to fix her problems. He doesn't need to compete with her emotions. He simply needs to be a safe place where she feels she can let down her guard. Many men don't realize how attractive emotional steadiness is, especially today. Women are surrounded by stress, pressure, and constant comparison. A man who makes her feel stable becomes a rare presence in her life. This leads to the next truth. Many modern women don't openly admit they deeply admire men who have mastered their emotions. Not men who suppress emotions, and not men who explode emotionally, but men who can stay centered even when life throws challenges their way. In one well-known psychology lecture, the speaker explained that emotional regulation in men signals something powerful: safety. A woman subconsciously interprets this as, I can trust this person. I can count on this person. I can relax around this person. And that relaxation is what opens the door to emotional closeness. Another insight that often surprises men is that many modern women want partnership, not perfection. They want someone who listens, someone who understands their world, and someone who can communicate clearly. Men sometimes assume women want them to be mind readers or superhuman providers, but this isn't true. What women struggle with is articulating their emotional needs in a way that feels safe. They worry about coming across as too demanding. They worry about being seen as too emotional. So instead of expressing their needs clearly, they drop hints or test the waters. This can confuse men, especially older men who grew up in a time when communication was more direct. But once you understand the root of it, not manipulation but insecurity, it becomes easier to navigate. Let me share a powerful example. A man in his early 60s wrote to me about a woman he had been seeing for several months. He said she often asked small questions like, "Do you think we're spending too much time together?" Or, "Do you think you'll still feel the same about me in a few months?" He took these as signs she was losing interest, but in reality, she was simply afraid of being blindsided. She had been left before. She had chosen the wrong man before. She wasn't doubting him. She was doubting her ability to trust her own judgment. Once he understood this, he shifted from feeling rejected to feeling compassionate. He reassured her without over-explaining, and the relationship grew stronger because he responded with understanding instead of frustration. Another truth modern women don't often express is that they crave emotional leadership from a man. Not control, not dominance, but leadership. This doesn't mean making every decision or taking charge of her life. It means setting the tone for the relationship, being consistent, being clear about intentions, communicating calmly during disagreements, showing confidence in difficult moments. Modern women live in a world of uncertainty. They deeply appreciate a man who brings clarity instead of confusion, stability instead of chaos. And many times they don't realize how strongly they desire this until they experience it. One of the most underrated relationship principles from modern psychological research is the concept of secure energy. Secure energy means you don't react impulsively. You don't get emotionally thrown off. You don't chase. You don't anxiously seek reassurance. You move through the relationship with confidence. When a man develops this secure energy, everything changes. Her tone changes, her openness changes, her respect increases, and her desire grows. Women are not drawn to perfection, wealth, or status nearly as much as they are drawn to emotional security. And this brings us to one of the most powerful truths many modern women do not talk about openly. They want to feel chosen, but they do not want to feel controlled. They want attention, but not desperation. They want consistency, but not neediness. They want closeness, but not pressure. When a man strikes the balance between interest and independence, she feels safe and attracted at the same time. When a man shows affection without losing himself, that is what makes a woman commit with her heart, not just her mind. Another critical insight is that many modern women feel they must be strong all the time. Society tells them to be independent, self-sufficient, and emotionally resilient. And while this has its benefits, it also has a cost. Many women quietly struggle with loneliness. Even when surrounded by people, they long for emotional rest. They long for a connection where they don't have to be the strong one every moment of the day. A man who gives her a space to soften, not because she's weak, but because she trusts him, is offering something deeply meaningful. This is why emotional presence matters more than ever. A man who listens without rushing. A man who speaks calmly. A man who expresses himself with honesty. A man who is comfortable with silence instead of needing constant validation. These qualities are rare in today's fast-paced world, and modern women treasure them more than they will ever admit publicly. And finally, the biggest truth modern women often keep hidden is this: they don't want perfection, they want peace. They want a man who brings steadiness to their life, a man who stands strong in uncertainty, a man who is confident enough to be patient, secure enough to communicate clearly, and wise enough to understand that most conflicts come from fear, not malice. When a man becomes this kind of presence, not only does he attract better relationships, he transforms the dynamics of love itself.